Greetings from my house. My name is Kim. I'm the manager at BookBook, and this is a bookstore, and I'm now filming these from at home in an attempt to try to shelter in place, stay at home as much as possible. I was tagged to do a 20 questions book tag, so that's what I am going to be doing today. I was tagged by Sydney, who is our newest bookseller. And yeah, so here we go with all of these questions. So question 1, how many books are too many for a series? I think if the series is good, they can write as many books as they want. I think longer series play better in middle grade novels. It just tends to be a type of book that can handle longer series better because I feel like a lot of adult fiction books are longer as is. And so longer series are more difficult to sustain. But yeah, it really just depends on the book. It depends on the story. Number 2, how do you feel about cliffhangers? If there's cliffhangers from chapter to chapter, it will keep me reading because I don't want to wait to find out what happens. If the cliffhanger's at the end of the book, it's a little bit more irritating. If it's a big cliffhanger, if it's like something that's like a teaser or something, that's one thing. But like a true cliffhanger at the end of a book, a little irritating. At the end of a chapter, though, like that's what's going to keep me going. Number 3, hardcover or paperback? Definitely paperback. They tend to be easier to fit in bags, so I can take them places. I know hardcover books tend to last longer, so there are advantages to that, but definitely I tend to prefer paperback just because they're lighter and easier to take places. Number 4, my favorite book. This is such a hard question. I read things from so many different genres. It's so difficult to pick one because, like, how can you compare Wow No Thank You to Anansi Boys to Sissy to Pet to Whipping Girl? Like, they're all such different books, but those are probably that's a handful of my favorites. And my favorite graphic novel, hands down, is Dead India by Hamish Steele. My least favorite book, also really difficult. It's very hard for me to get myself to finish a book that I don't like. If I start to not like it, I just put it down and I don't pick it back up again, even though I tell myself I really should finish that. If I don't like it, I don't read it, really. The one book that I did make myself read when I was doing a presentation for a class in college about emotional abuse and representation of emotional abuse, glorification of emotional abuse in pop culture was 50 Shades of Grey. Did not like that book. I did read most of that book anyway for that. So yeah, that's probably one of my least favorite books that I've read. Love triangles, yes or no? Are we talking polyamorous representation? Because I'm all about that. Representing some healthy polyamory. I know that's not what the question's asking. But right. So like actual love triangles, no. I don't like that in stories. I used to think that I just hated romantic plot lines, which I've found isn't necessarily true. I really like some romantic plot lines, but the love triangle plot line or subplot, I don't tend to like very much. Let's see. Number 7, the most recent book that you couldn't finish. That would probably have to be The Babysitter's Coven, and that one wasn't necessarily because I didn't like it, because it was really cute. As a bookseller, there's a lot of stuff that I want to read, and a lot of times I'll get an arc for a book that I want to be able to recommend, and I'll read some of it, enough of it to be able to say, wow, this is really good, you should read it. And so that was The Babysitter's Coven for me. I did really like it going into it. It's also, YA is not my favorite thing to read, and so I think I moved on for something else that I knew I was going to get really into. So that would be probably the most recent one that I read and didn't finish. Let's see, a book that you're currently reading. So right behind me, this is my either to be read shelf, or it's also where I keep books that I'm in the middle of reading. Docile is one that I'm reading right now. I did have to put this down recently, specifically with the shutdown and with the state of the world, because this is a dystopia novel, and it was a lot before this happened, and since all of this has been going on, it's been a lot more difficult for me to get through, so I put it down for now. But it's a dystopian novel about next of kin laws with regards to like student loan and debt, and so people end up in like millions and millions of dollars in debt, and there's no way to get rid of it, and people are basically selling themselves into what is not deemed as slavery, because that's not what this is. You're like fully consenting to this, and it's really messed up, but it's also really, really like it grabbed me. I was like, oh, I'll just read a few pages and see, and I was like all of a sudden 2 chapters in, and I was like, well, okay, I'm hooked. Like it's one of those like really good world building books, and it's really engrossing. This one came out last month, I guess. I don't know that we've had it in the store yet. I haven't seen it anyway. But everything has been so wild lately, who knows. Okay, so what is next? Okay, so the last book that I recommended to someone, I was talking on Facebook chat with my cousin the other night. He's a writer. He lives in Wisconsin. He's moving to Ohio in the middle of all of this, which is... I imagine very stressful, and we recommend books back and forth to each other all the time. And so when he was asking me, hey, what's good, what should I order from the bookstore, the 2 that I recommended were Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. It's a super quick read, YA. It's like 200 pages. It has a lot of fantasy elements and a lot of social commentary. Also, it's super fast paced, really, really good. I knew it would be right up his alley too. And then Wow No Thank You by Sam Irby is the other one that I recommended, because that's just, it's one of the funniest books I've ever read in my life. If you have never read any Sam Irby, go read Sam Irby. I will recommend that book to everybody always. Oldest book you've read by pub date. That would probably have to be, and I had to like look into that before I started this video because I wasn't sure. I think it would probably have to be either the Mabinogion or the Decameron. Both of those books were compiled like so long ago that nobody knows exactly what year, and they were kind of around the same time frame, I think. So I think that's the right answer. Newest book that I've read by pub date, probably Wow No Thank You. I'm outing myself here. I have not currently read any arcs for books that have not yet come out. I fell behind with everything that's been going on. But Wow No Thank You just came out on the 31st, and it is a fantastic book. I loved every second of it. I laughed so hard, and there were so many spots where I I told my wife, I was like, can I just read you this one part because it's really funny, you'll think it's funny, and then I would just read like the whole essay, and then the whole book. Okay, so the next one, number 12, my favorite author. That one's also really hard because there's so many good authors, and again, as a bookseller, once I get the feel for somebody's voice, I try to spread my reading around as much as I can. So like I've read a little bit of N.K. Jemisin, but like not a lot, and I've read like a little bit of a little bit of Carmen Maria Machado, but like not a lot. Like it's hard because of the way that I read to really pick a favorite author, but I'd probably have to say Neil Gaiman for fantasy fiction stuff, and Sam Irby for nonfiction memoir essays. Let's see. Number 13. Okay, so buying books or borrowing books. I work at a bookstore, but even just beyond that, I love buying books because then I can lend them to other people, and just kind of spread the book love around as much as I can. I love when people, like friends, come to me and they're like, hey, I really would love some books with some queer representation, and I can take them to my shelf and be like, that shelf, pick some stuff from here. Or, I just really need something good to read. I can take them to my shelf and let them borrow stuff. That's really cool. And it feeds my bad habit of having a mountain of a TBR pile. I have a huge TBR pile because if I borrow the book, then I have to read it in 2 weeks and give it back. But like if I just buy the book, then it can sit there and be on my TBR forever, which is why this entire shelf behind me is my TBR shelf. There's a lot of books on there. Yeah, either TBR or books that I want to reread. There's some on there that I have read that I just want to get to again. Okay, so the next question, number 14, a book that you dislike that everyone else seems to love. This is also hard because, again, if I don't like a book, it's really hard to make myself read it. I probably have to say, I don't know, at the time it really felt like I was the only person who didn't like 50 Shades of Grey. Same thing with Twilight, I felt like I was the only person who didn't like Twilight. Come to find out, there's a lot of people who don't like those books, now that I'm a little bit older. And I'd probably have to say The Cursed Child. Sydney was saying that, like, all of the extra Harry Potter stuff, that a lot of people seem to like it, and she really doesn't. I like the couple of adjacent books, like the Quidditch Through the Ages, like the Tales of Beetle the Bard, like those, like, super adjacent books, but I'm of the same mind, like The Cursed Child, all of the other, like, extra, I don't love that. Like, those 7 books, and then the textbooks that, you know, were spin-offs from within that, I like the rest of it not so much. Okay, so number 15, dog ears or bookmarks. Definitely bookmarks. I was a dog ear kid. I dog eared all my books as a kid, and I don't know why I got out of the habit of doing that, but yeah, I use bookmarks. A book that I can always reread, number 16. I've reread Harry Potter, the whole series, probably more than I've reread any other book, except for The Hobbit. I've reread The Hobbit, like, a lot of times. I love that book. I actually, like, confession, have not made it all the way through reading the entire Lord of the Rings series. But I read The Hobbit so many times. It's one of my favorite books. Okay, let's see. Number 17, can you read while listening to music? If it's instrumental, yes. Because at the same time, if it's, like, completely quiet, that's also really distracting for me. But yeah, if it's instrumental, absolutely I can. Or if it's, like, there's some music where the lyrics are, like, muted enough or enough in the background that I can read while listening to that. If the book is really good, it doesn't matter what's going on. I'll be able to focus on it. But yeah, generally, if it's, like, poppy music that I know the lyrics to, especially, like, then that gets really distracting. Number 18, one point of view or multiple point of view. I honestly like mixing it up. Like, I would hate if every book that I read was in one person's point of view. I would hate if every single book that I read was in multiple persons' points of view. Like, sometimes I like following multiple characters, sometimes I like following one. It really just depends on the story that's being told and the way that the author's doing it. Number 19, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? I'm very, very busy, and I have kids, and, like, multiple days. It's very rare that I can sit down and read a book in one sitting. I think the last time I was able to do that was The Moon Within, and that's a middle grade novel in verse, and so that took me 45 minutes to read. But, yeah, most of the time, it's got to be at least a couple of sittings. And then number 20, who do I tag to do this next? I'm going to tag Jacqueline to do this next. Yeah, that was really fun. Thanks for tagging me, Sydney, and thanks for watching, everybody. Like this video, share it all over the place, and follow us on social media. Thank you so much. Have a great day.